Hi, my name is Toto Wolff. I'm the CEO and team principal of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, and I'm here to answer your questions. So this is F1 team principal support. Cauliflower nice. How do you make decisions when the data says one thing, but your instinct says another? Formula 1 is the only real sport where you have that interaction between engineering and the human. So we have all of these data channels that provide us information around what the car does. And then you have a human in the car that's driving it. You can't really map that human, because what does it mean to have a good and a bad day? What does it mean to slide a car and the engineer saying, I can't see that? You know, the driver will say, well, I think the car moves on braking. The engineer says, it doesn't do that really much. So I am a little bit of the translator between the driver feedback and what the engineers see in the data. I've been a racer myself, but I'm realistic. This is a data-driven sport. This is engineering. So instinct plays a role when it comes about judging how a driver feels and judging about whether a strategy is realistic from the driver's point of view. And in that context, I'm helping the engineers that actually run the operation with the kind of more common sense approach. But it's that interaction, data and instinct that hopefully makes a team successful. The next one, Max Fried Rice. What happened to F1 team principals accusing everyone and their mother of cheating? Where is your rage? You think I'm not enraged anymore? I would see this as a success. You know, I've been very angry, very emotional at times, because when we are being taken for a ride, I see this as my tribe. I want to protect the organization and the people, and this is where I can emotionally react. Now, as a leader of the team, I should be also balanced and not oscillate between exuberance and depression. So I'm trying to get better over the years and have less of that rage. Managers and trainers and coaches are very emotional about it in order to motivate their players, motivate the organization. So we are a little bit all from the same cloth. We're sports people and we want the best for our organizations and for the team. We're also in a different era now. I think the team principals of the past were the ones running the organizations, being co-owners, stems from the Frank Williams days and Ron Dennis, where it was smaller organizations. And probably I'm the last dinosaur left of that old generation. Today is more common sense, balanced engineers that run some of the team. The next one up is Wheel with Wobby. Who is currently the most underrated driver in F1? For me, it's clear it's George Russell. He's won everything. In go-karting, in Formula 3, Formula 2. He came into the team next to Lewis Hamilton, the biggest sports star in our industry, if not one of the biggest overall. But George has grown so much as a driver in his skills and as a personality. And I think today he's definitely right up there and someone that leads the team going forward. By Brendan White. Do you think we've reached the ceiling of F1's global growth, or is this just the beginning? I think neither of the two, because the sport has grown over more than 70 years now, and there were episodes where the incremental was huge and other phases where it kind of leveled off. But overall, the trend is always up. I think what we see now is that we had great racing, great rivalries, good personalities coming up, polarizing and controversial people also. Netflix certainly had a big part in the success, particularly in the United States. The social media activities of the drivers are much more than they used to be in the past. And I think all of that kind of made us grow very strong. Our strongest growing audience base is young females, 15 to 24. Total female fan base is 42%, believe it or not. And I think that it's quite balanced between the hardcore fans of the past that love the loud roaring engines and all of the new generation, the Gen Zs, that follow it with great interest from the free practice sessions all the way to the race. Now, I'm always seeing the world in a half empty glass perspective rather than half full. And we need to be continuing to handle the sport with great care. We must never believe that this is the real deal. This is so successful and it's going to continue forever. The Apple deal taking the rights in the US, which is fantastic for the sport. So we need to be really aware that we have a great thing at our hands and it needs to be entertaining. It needs to be unpredictable. And that's what we always try to calibrate in the right way. So the next question, Yogi V88 asks, how is a typical Formula 1 team setup? The typical setup is that we are divided into three entities. One is producing the engines. That's about 1,200 people. The other one, which is all chassis-related items. It's in principle the same size. And then there is the race team itself, which is around 150 people that travel to the races and are basically deploying the product. And that includes the drivers. So what you see on television is only the race team. So it's literally the tip of the iceberg, and most of the performance is being done in the factories. Next up, Rio Garden asks, what does an F1 team principal actually do? So as a team principal, I have responsibility not only for the racing team, but all of the wider organization. We're about 1,200 people, and it's not only technical, it is also the commercial side, legal, finance, HR, IT, and obviously I'm in charge of doing that in a way around people that run racing cars. Josh Hamilton, a question for the F1 geeks. Is team principal the same thing as crew chief? Formula One is a bit weird in that sense because a team principal is what you would see in American sports as the president, the CEO, the coach, the trainer, and the crew chief. So it's all within our roles. Now, obviously, our organizations have grown from back in the day 100 people to 2,000 people that are dedicated to these roles. But fundamentally, the responsibility of the team principal is to look after all of these. So there is no clear, let's say, cut between a CEO, US-style sports team, and the sporting director or the coach is what we do as team principals. From Pickle Shrimp, why do Mercedes race engineers, strategists, and Toto sit inside the garage during races? So this is a little bit of a legacy situation. In the previous setups of teams, the team principal would sit on the pit wall to oversee the pit lane, to oversee what's happening on the main straight. We don't use stopwatches and we don't look at cars that are passing by, but it's kind of remained there. I have decided to change it for myself, not to sit on the pit wall, but to be in the garage. So you can see me standing in the middle island center console, so I can see the left and the right side of the garage, and that gives me the best possible overview. The mechanics refer to it as the fantasy island because engineers and myself, we dream stuff up there rather than doing the hard work. So where I sit, I basically have a few data channels that I look at. I can follow all timing, the comparison to the other drivers. I have charts and overlays that I look at. What are our cornering speeds looking like compared to the opposition? I'm seeing GPS data, how the cars zoom around the track. So there's plenty of information. I'm also speaking to many engineers. My intercom channel has about 30 people that I listen to, and it's a little bit like an airplane. So you get used to hearing voices out of the chaos. That is a big part of deciding what the strategy needs to do, being a partner for some of the engineers and challenging them. This question is from Remy Bergsma. What's the toughest decision you made this season and also the easiest? Some of the tough and easy decisions, they happen outside of the track. I'm responsible to running quite a large organization. And when it comes about taking decisions on an organizational structure, telling people that maybe we should change their role or maybe not have them anymore, that is always really difficult, especially when some of the people have been with you on a journey for quite a long time. And equally, I really enjoy having conversations with the engineers, the drivers, the marketing people when growing the sport together. So it's mostly the human interaction with all its difficult aspects of discussions and all of the positive ones. Rafa Kill 28, a simple question. How many hours of sleep do you get a night? The job of team manager seems like a job you can easily practice 24/7. Now, I think sleep matters for most of all, and we don't get a lot of sleep. We travel a lot. I did more than 550 hours of airplane last year through the various time zones, but that comes with the job. So I'm trying to get my 7 to 8 hours sleep. I try to sleep whenever I'm tired. Put me on a plane, I'll sleep. And when I'm back in Europe, I try to have a strict regime. I'm not a morning person. So for me, it's no meetings before 10 o'clock. And in the same way, I stay very long. I go to the gym at 8 o'clock in the evening, have dinner and get these hours of sleep in. And you should do the same. So the next one is from Shaf Lapagos. What's the most important psychological trait a driver or engineer needs to thrive under pressure? I think pressure needs to be your comfort zone in a way. There is no hiding. This is a sport where you constantly operate with immense pressure. I'm always laughing a bit when companies tell us we need to report 4 times a year in our earnings calls, and it's difficult for a long-term strategy deployment. And I'm thinking we are reporting 24 times a year, and we're only as good as our last race. So it goes from hero to zero and the other way around. One weekend is the Mercedes dominance continues, and the next weekend is Toto should leave the team because they're losing all the time. So this is the pressure environment we find ourselves. Now, the drivers have gotten used to it because they have been go-karting since they're 6. So it's almost like the normal state. And only the ones who can sustain that pressure will eventually make it into Formula One. It's not only talent. And the same on the managerial side. If pressure is something that you don't enjoy, maybe having a role that is not at the forefront of the race team, it's better for you. So we're all different personalities. We're all different in terms of strengths and weaknesses, and we're trying to position the individuals in their kind of field of competence. Sid Parker 10 asks, what are the biggest challenges you faced when running the Mercedes F1 team, and how you and your team overcame those challenges? Like, what is your approach to problem solving? It's all about the human. We won 8 World Championship titles in a row, and that hasn't been done in any other sport. You know, the Boston Celtics will claim they did it in the NBA, but obviously that's a regional championship only. Just joking, obviously. But our sport is engineering, our sport is data, but data don't take decisions. Humans do. And being able to set up a framework for those high-performing individuals, being authentic and taking an interest in the individual. What is it that I can do to make you perform better? I can't design an aerodynamic surface, but I try to spend some time with the guy who can. And I hope that this trickles down in the organization, that we look after our people whilst acknowledging that this is the most difficult environment that you could possibly operate. It's Formula One. It's the pinnacle of motor racing. Random citizen, can someone explain to a new F1 fan why Mercedes is such a dominant team? Now, first of all, we don't feel any sense of entitlement to be a dominant team. We have been lucky to having had the right people in our organization because it's a human sport as well, whilst there is all of the engineering side. It's humans in the car and outside of the car. And I think we have such a great group of individuals that over the many years has grown, but has also changed. We've had very good years. We've had more difficult ones, but we've always been part of the top gang. 8 consecutive world championships. We finished 2nd and 3rd, unfortunately 4th one time, but we've always won races, and maybe that's why the perception is that we're a dominant team. And obviously Mercedes is the best car brand in the world, but we have to be kept on our toes. We must never stop pushing the limits, because in this sport it could quickly fail. So this question is from the Ask Formula One subreddit. How has AI or predictive analytics actually changed how you approach strategy? How has it evolved? So of course, AI is an area that is going stronger and stronger in Formula One because we are a data-driven business. We have used it a long time. But having said that, it's really difficult to model the driver, to model the human with all of its infinite sensors. We're playing through 10,000 possible scenarios when it comes to race strategy. And like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a strategy until he gets punched on the nose. So this is how racing pans out. You can discuss all kinds of scenarios, and then there's the human in the car, and he reacts differently to what you expected. So I love that. Some Finnish Metea, have any of the F1 team principals ever driven one of their cars? Many of us have been racing drivers, some better, some worse. But I decided once I quit professional racing that I wouldn't drive our own F1 cars. I have my own expectations what performance would look like. And I'm 53 now, and I wouldn't want to see myself not meeting my own expectations. But there's some colleagues of mine that enjoy doing that, maybe not zooming around the tracks like pros would do, maybe more snail speed, but they still do that for fun. Others play golf or paddle. For me, it's rather trying to do the best for the F1 team, and certainly driving our cars that wouldn't add any performance to what we do.
Wait, could you name who the colleagues are?
No, then I really put them into the water. They know. This one is from Winter Wolf. If you were to design, customize your own F1 car without limitations, how would you design it to make it stand out? Well, there's a technical aspect. What I would design is the fastest car that could potentially go around the track on this planet. I would do fans below the car where you have suction, so the car is literally sucked onto the ground. Big wings and a huge 12-cylinder engine that roars. I would make them light, nimble. When it comes to the design, we are the silver arrows. It's quite an interesting historical aspect. The Mercedes in Formula One have been white, and in one race, the car was too heavy. So they had to take off the white paint down to the bare aluminium to make the minimum weight. And that's the color that stayed with us since then. But since Lewis joined the team, we stand for diversity and equality. And Lewis suggested, let's make the car black. And so today, the modern Formula One Mercedes car is black and silver. So this is a design that I would in any case maintain for my dream car, and lots of Mercedes stars and the AMG logo, the chevron. So this is everything for today. I hope you learned a lot. Thanks for watching F1 Team Principal Support.